I wanted to give you a little video with some information before you start this chapter on section views. This is a file that you've got that you'll download, and it's the tutorials in chapter 8 there on page 326. And so I'm not going to actually do the hatching and stuff for you. You follow along with the book on how to do that. But I want to clarify a few things. This object, as you look at it, it's 10 inches wide across here, the length of it. So it's kind of big, and we're putting it on an 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper. So our scale is set at a 1:4, and that's already locked, and it's centered in here. But because of we're doing such a small scale, our line types are not showing us what we normally would use. So if I look at my line type here, and a way to check that is to just, the best way to check the size of your dash is just draw a line. So I'll go line, and I just kind of visually pick that and draw it across. So it's 0.06. When we print a drawing, our dashes should be 1/8 of an inch. Okay, so we have to fix that, but let's look at our center lines here also. Okay, so they're kind of small also. So if we do a global line type scale, if I just go LTS, line type scale, if I go 2, because I want to make it twice as big as what it is now. Okay, so that's good for my hidden lines. We'll check that. So that gives me a line of 0.12, okay? But you notice my center lines all got, they lost the pattern for the center line, okay? And that's going to affect some other things. So instead of a global line type scale, let's change that back to 1. Let's go ahead and activate model space here. And I want to right click and go, it's not showing up here. Okay. So let's go back over to the model tab. Now I can right click, go quick select. It might have been over there. Maybe I didn't see it. And let's go layer equals hidden. And see, it's selected all of my hidden lines. And so let's go to our properties tab and change the line type scale for that to 2. Okay. Now our center lines, let's go back to the layout and take a look here. They're too small, but if we line type scale it times 2, oh, it is there. Okay. So I can do it here. So go ahead and double click inside to activate your model button here. And we'll right click and we'll go quick select. And let's choose layer center. And let's play with it. Let's go with a 1.5. Now, see, it's still, so I'm going to Control Z to undo this. So I'm just going to leave those, even though the dashes are kind of small. But with these down here, we do need to kind of adjust these and that one, because they're short, the pattern is not showing up. And we can change line patterns, but I think our easiest thing for us right now is just going to be to line type scale them. I've selected those 3, so I go to my properties, and we actually need to make those shorter, so let's go 0.75. Okay, and so that worked with that. All right, now here at Chatt-Tech, we teach all dimensioning in paper space, and we teach to put the cutting plane line in paper space. And the reason for that is you can better control the size of your arrowhead and the size of your dashes if you do as opposed to do them in model space as the book kind of shows you. So you're going to put a cutting plane line right through here with some arrowheads. And the book doesn't really explain how to do that, but the tutorial videos on doing the flange bearing, she shows kind of how to do that. But I want to go ahead and do that for you here. Now, one thing about it is when you put a cutting plane line in, you do not have center lines under it. So I'm going to take, oh, can I do it here? Yeah. I'm going to take these 3 vertical center lines out. Okay, now I want to go back to paper space, change over to my, well now, oh, I didn't put the layer in. Let me pause the video and get that layer put in there. Okay, I got my my cutting plane layer put in. And we teach doing it as the entire cutting plane as a polyline in the 1107 class where we teach it. We do a little bit in 1103 also, but we teach it as like a one-step operation. It can be a little cantankerous, you know, trying to do that. So we're going to go ahead and go with it as a polyline. I've got ortho mode turned on. Turn my object snaps back on. Now I am in paper space. Okay, my paper button is active here. The template had a polyline set at 10 or something. Excuse me, bizarre. So we'll go polyline and pick a start point right here at the top. And then go ahead and go W for width, tell it 0, enter, and then it's asking for the ending width. So go ahead and type in 0 again. Now draw your line on down to the bottom. Okay, and then you can escape or right click and exit out of that command. And so now we'll lengthen that. LEN lengthen DE 0.25. Okay. All right. And now we're going to go with our arrowhead. So we'll go back to our polyline command and start here. My width should be set to 0. I want to come out a length of 0.25. And now I want to change my polyline width for the arrowhead. So I'll go W, enter, and I want my width to be 0.08, my ending width to be 0, and the length of my arrowhead to be 0.25. And then I can escape and cancel that. Because in drafting, our arrowheads, the width of it should be 1/3 of the length, and 0.08 is pretty close to being 1/3 of 0.25 length. All right, so now I can copy that down to here. Okay, and because these were all polylines, we're going to join them together. So I'm going to type on my keyboard. I'm going to go P-edit, and I'm going to select that polyline. Then I'm going to go join and select all 3 of my polylines, and then right click and then escape. And so now when I select it, I pick up the whole thing. Now then, if one thing we want to look at is the line type on this, because we just got a solid line with one huge dash in it. So while it's selected, let's go to properties. Let's go line type. Let's play with it. Let's go 0.5. I think 0.25 is going to be better. Okay. The one thing we want to, well, I don't need a calculator. One thing we want to make sure is that our arrowhead doesn't have a dash in it. And so let's bring on our line type thickness. So we want to make sure that the arrowhead doesn't have a dash. Okay. That's what I wanted to cover. Now, the section hatching, you're going to do that over here in model space. Okay. And the book gives a good description of the steps you're going to go through on that to do that. So if you've got questions, shoot shoot me or the instructor an email, or ask myself or the lab assistants while you're here in the lab.